Jockey didn't wait for me to agree. He grabbed me and pulled me out of the room. As he dragged me away, I looked back. The old man and young man had faces full of sorrow and worry. I couldn't say their expressions were fake. Yet these two were clearly threatening Jockey with death, which is not what decent people do. But if they were bad guys, how could they look so genuinely distressed? I wanted to stop and get answers, but Jockey pulled me downstairs with such force that I had no choice. At the hotel entrance, he paused to catch his breath, then pulled me toward his car. The driver saw us and hurried over. Jockey waved him away. "Go back. I'm going to Shanghai with young Master Wei. Stop staring at me like that." His last words came out as a loud shout, startling the driver into backing away. Jockey opened the car door, and I was very happy he was willing to go to Shanghai. In Shanghai, I knew several excellent doctors. If they could examine Jockey, they would surely find the cause of his problem. We got in, and he drove. Soon we were on the highway. He stayed silent, and I didn't bother him. After about 10 minutes, he suddenly burst out laughing. Don't think I'm joking. I don't believe it myself, but those two insisted I've been cursed with goo and have only 20 days left to live. I froze. I knew little about goo, just bits from books, mostly novels. This was the first time I had heard someone claim to be cursed with goo in real life. I forced myself to stay calm, knowing Jockey was finally ready to talk. "What happened?" I asked calmly. "Tell me everything." Slowly, he became quiet for a moment. "Last summer, I went to Yunnan to collect biological samples. Yunnan is like a natural zoo and botanical garden." I frowned. "Why didn't you mention it in your letters?" "I wanted to wait until I had organized the samples," he said. "I thought when you visited, you'd be shocked by them, and then I'd tell you the story." Those samples had indeed shocked me, but Jockey's condition was much more serious, so I hadn't paid much attention to where they came from. I nodded. "What happened there?" I nodded. "What happened there?" He paused for a long time before continuing. "I went with a university teacher and two classmates, officially as an exploration team. We started in Sichuan, went to Kangding, then headed south along the Langkang River. That trip was amazing. The landscapes we passed through were incredibly beautiful, beyond anything I could describe. It felt like living in a fairy tale." I didn't react much. That route was all rough mountain paths and wild nature, hardly a pleasant journey. He was clearly making it sound better than it was. He went on. "We ended up in a Miao village about 80 miles south of Pu'er, in a small valley hidden among tall mountains." His face lit up with longing. "By the Langkang River, there's a smaller river called the Beijing River. Its water was stunning, calm as a mirror, clear as glass, despite the strong currents of the Langkang." He described it clearly. "We traded 2 gold beads with a Miao villager for a bamboo hut by the river. Those huts were fascinating, with roofs made of banana leaves that made a soft sound in the rain. We had brought modern tents, but the Miao huts were treated somehow. Snakes and poisonous insects couldn't get in. We planned to stay a month, but something unexpected changed everything." He stopped speaking and pulled the car over. Back then, trains were the main way to travel long distances. Few people drove between Shanghai and Suzhou, so when the car stopped, the silence around us was complete. Jockey pressed a hand to his forehead. "I don't know if it was a dream. It couldn't have been. That night, I was alone, floating on a small boat on the river. The other 3 were busy sorting the samples we had collected. Suddenly, from upstream, I heard laughter. In the quiet night, it made me curious. I rowed against the current, and after half an hour, I saw many torches on the river, all coming from a strange-looking boat. It wasn't one boat, but a dozen canoes tied together. I saw people playing happily on them. I had my binoculars with me. Paddling with one hand to keep the boat moving on the water, I held the binoculars with the other. There were men and women, dressed in strange clothes, different from the Miao people I had seen on my journey. I knew the Miao people in Yunnan, Guizhou, Hunan, and Guangxi provinces could be divided into hundreds of different groups. Miao is just a general name. Curious, I kept watching through the binoculars, but as I was very focused, a splash sounded beside my boat. It tilted, and water sprayed onto me. It startled me. I dropped the binoculars and looked down, only to freeze. A girl was holding onto the side of my boat, looking up at me. Her face and hair had water droplets that shone like pearls in the moonlight, sliding down her cheeks. I had never seen such a beautiful girl, and even now, I don't know how to describe her. Jockey's breathing became shallow. I stayed silent, staring at him, completely fascinated. After a long pause, he continued, "She looked at me, and I looked at her. Then she jumped out of the water onto my boat. She was almost completely naked. My heart beat very fast. She was so beautiful and bare I didn't know what to do. The boat floated downstream, but she didn't care. She pointed at my binoculars. She must have come from those canoes upstream. She had probably seen me staring through the binoculars for a while, which made her curious. I handed them to her. She held them to her eyes, but after one look, she gasped, dropped them, and they sank into the water. I reached to grab them, but it was too late." Jockey went on. "She looked shocked too and dived in after them. I knew the river was deep, there was no way to get the binoculars back. When she came to the surface, I shouted, 'Forget it. Don't risk it.' She didn't understand me, but my yelling caught the attention of the people on the canoes upstream. They started floating toward us. They saw me and began whispering curiously. The girl came to the surface again, shouting something to them, and they all jumped into the water. I knew they were searching for nothing, but because of the language difference, I couldn't stop them. They dived for an hour, of course, finding nothing. Then another canoe came downstream, carrying a young man. The others saw him and started shouting. The girl, looking upset, spoke to him urgently. The young man's face became serious. He paddled to my boat and said, 'Sir, Bashu says she lost your treasure. Your treasure can make someone go from here to there in an instant.' I almost laughed. The binoculars just made things look bigger, but Bashu, that must have been her name, thought they moved people to far-off places, like some magical item. Since the young man spoke Mandarin, I could talk to him. I said, 'It's not a treasure, just binoculars. They're gone, no need to search.' He seemed unsure. He tilted his head, listening carefully to every word. When I repeated myself, he nodded eagerly and spoke to the girl. Her worried expression disappeared clearly. He had told her what I said. That was the first time I saw a girl's smile so beautiful. I can't even describe it." Jockey paused again, lost in thought. I listened, completely captivated. Even Jockey, remembering the story, seemed caught in a dream. As the listener, I felt it even more. When he paused, I took a deep breath. That young man, Jockey interrupted, "was the one you saw in the hotel. His name's Meng Ji, Bashu's brother, the old man's son." As he said "the old man," his body trembled, and he pressed his hands to his face. To calm him down and lighten the heavy mood in the car, I chuckled. "Not bad, huh? A Chinese guy meets a meow girl, and her charming smile probably means she likes you." Before I could finish, Jockey dropped his hands and roared, "Shut up." His shout was so harsh that his spit hit my face. I was stunned. I don't usually joke around, but Jockey and I were close enough for it. Why was he so angry at my words? Had I said something wrong? From his reaction, I must have touched a sensitive spot, something he didn't want anyone to talk about. Yet, from his story, it seemed clear he and Bashu had developed a strong connection, and things didn't sound unpleasant. In that moment, I feared his condition was starting again. I stared, shocked, as he breathed heavily. After a full minute, he said, "I'm sorry. Really sorry." I brushed it off. "No big deal. You're in a bad situation. If you don't get angry at me, who else is there? Only true friends could talk like that." Jockey gripped my hand for a long moment before continuing. I was completely amazed by Bashu's smile. "I had the same thought as you. This kind of thing happens all the time in novels and movies." It filled me with a sweet, dreamy hope. I saw Bashu looking at me, talking to Meng Ji. Then Meng Ji told me their clan was the most powerful among the Miao for hundreds of miles, called the Aki Meng clan, with only a few hundred members. He paused, then sighed. Back then, I didn't know Aki Meng meant Gu clan in their language. If I had, I might not have gone. But maybe I would have anyway. My understanding of Gu was so vague. I had no idea there was a Miao clan known as the Gu clan, and Bashu's smile, he gave a bitter smile before continuing. Meng Ji said their clan's home was strictly off-limits to outsiders. Only 5 years ago, a strange man, blonde hair, green eyes, covered in fine golden hair, with a high, hooked nose and ghostly pale skin had been allowed in because he had saved one of their people. He was so enchanted by their home that he stayed. Now, because of my kindness, I could be the second exception allowed to visit. When Meng Ji said that, I barely hesitated. You know how curious I am. He made their home sound so mysterious, and the idea of a green-eyed, golden-haired strange man made me even more eager to see it. Plus, Bashu was smiling at me, clearly fond of me, obviously hoping I'd agree. He sighed again. I agreed right away. His voice showed deep regret, as if he had made a terrible mistake. But I didn't see what he had done wrong. If it were me, I would have agreed too. The Miao regions are like something out of a magical paradise, and this clan sounded even more mysterious. How could you not go see for yourself?